On today's transmission of Rice Against the Grain, I am joined by Dr. KL, aka Mr. Beneficiary, for our multi-part series about the legal fiction. If you have not watched Lesson 1, The Great Legal Deception, I encourage you to watch that before proceeding with today's video. Lesson 2, Everything You Wanted to Know About the Birth Certificate. Before we get into it, make sure you visit ricetvx.com and sign up for my mailing list so you never miss an update or new Rice TVX and Rice Against the Grain content. You will also find links to all of my various channels as well as my social media. Make sure you're following both of my YouTube channels, Rice TVX as well as Rice Against the Grain. And due to censorship, make sure you follow me on other alternative platforms such as Rumble and Odyssey, where I do post up exclusive content. If you want to support Rice TVX, be sure to check out and join my Patreon channel, where you will get early access to my videos with no ads, unedited. You will also get exclusive content and more. Get your free half ounce of silver. Take full advantage of my partnership with Money Metals Exchange in 5 easy steps. 1. Visit moneymetals.com. 2. Be a first-time buyer. 3. Purchase a minimum of $100. 4. Use the promo code RICE. 5. Get a free half ounce of silver, and it's an additional way to support the channel. I will include links in the video description for everything I just mentioned, as well as everything shared on today's video. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, joining me on today's show is Mr. Beneficiary, Dr. KL. He is returning for lesson number 2, which he is calling Everything You Want to Know About the Birth Certificate. KL, I appreciate you coming back to the show. How's it going, my friend?
Thanks, Chris, for having me back. It's always a pleasure to be on your show.
Likewise, my friend, likewise. I really appreciate your time. I know your time is valuable. But one of the things before we begin that I want to tell people is regarding the study of law and looking into what I call the legal fiction and the creation of the straw man. I've interviewed a lot of different people. I've had you on the show numerous times, and you're one of the few that really, really back up what you have to say. You don't just say words and I guess hope that people are just going to believe what you have to say. You literally throw out as much empirical evidence and proof to back up what you're saying so that people don't have to trust KL. They can actually literally verify everything that you're saying. And I appreciate that about you.
Right. And I try to use their forms, their paperwork as evidence also, because I come from the philosophy that if I ever needed to go to court, I need to have more than what I'm going to say. I need to be able to present physical evidence. And that's where those paperwork or the birth certificate, those kinds of things come into play, is I want them to be able to recognize their documents as evidence. And
Right.
that's usually what works. That's what works, is something that has their form and their signature on it, that they're not going to say, well, we're not going to accept that. They'll say, okay, I got it. And then usually it's not a problem after that.
Awesome. Well, the other thing I will let people know is if they're catching this video and they have not watched lesson 1, The Great Legal Deception, I will have a link down below. You're not going to want to watch lesson 2 without watching lesson 1 first. You're going to want to watch these in consecutive orders, and KL will be back on with a further lesson. In the past, this is as far as we've gotten is this episode, but I wanted to redo everything from a fresh perspective, and so that's what we're doing today. I'm going to go ahead and let KL take over as he does a great job of educating not only me, but you watching. And also, just so you know, he does offer his services on a private level. Nothing that he does as far as his teachings with his students, as far as what we're going to be talking about in the subject of law and the legal fiction, nothing takes place in a public realm. It's all private. His contact information will be down below. If you would like to receive copies of the documents, I wouldn't encourage you to bombard KL with emails for that. You can email me. I will have my email address down below in the video description. It'll be ricemediagroup@protonmail.com, and put KL lesson 2 in the subject line, and I will send you the documents. And if you're interested in learning from the teacher himself, you can contact him directly. So I'll give it over to you, my friend.
All right. Yeah, I do give private teachings, but I believe that's because It just works best that way than to you learn it off of a website, or it's better that I talk to you, that I send you paperwork for you to review, then we talk about it. It just creates a better learning environment. That's all.
No, I
Okay.
agree. I agree. And but at the same time, that's why I wanted to let people know not to bombard you just to get just these
Right. Just to get
documents from this
paperwork.
video. Yeah. If you
Right.
want just the paperwork for right now, just to proceed and study, contact me, Rice Media Group at protonmail.com. If you want to learn directly from the man himself, contact him. And I will have your email address, but you got a new email address for people to
Yes.
contact you. What is that?
mrbeneficiary@gmail.com.
No, you're excited to have that.
Yeah, I know. I was like you, amazed that it was available right away. No dot, just mrbeneficiary@gmail.com.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you, my friend. Okay. Well, I'm going to hand it over to you for lesson number 2. Everything that we want to know about the birth certificate.
Okay, so the reason I bring this one up is because everyone always has questions about the birth certificate, and there's a lot of confusion because there's one at the county level, there's one at the state level. So, what really happens when you get a birth certificate? What happens if your mom and dad get it? How is it used? All of these kinds of things stem from this darn birth certificate. And I'll be honest with you, this is where it all started. Everything that the government is control of all started with this birth certificate and what they do at your birth. So I tried to devise a little bit of a lesson plan here to try to give you all aspects of what's going on when a birth happens. Now, before we really get to a birth, we have to actually go back in time and figure out, all right, let's go back and see what happens when you're in your mother's womb. Okay, so before that happens, I want to read a couple codes from the District of Columbia, which all of these codes have been codified into state statute. So whatever state you live in, you can look it up. It has the exact same coding. Okay, and this is a code of uh, definitions or terms that the United States government, the corporate jurisdiction, uses. Okay, Section 2 or Section 7201 defines certain words that they use concerning births. Okay, and I'm going to go down to number 9 on the second page of the handout. Live birth, the quotation mark, live birth, because a lot of certificates will say certificate of live birth. Well, what does a live birth mean versus what certificate of birth? These kinds of things. So, live birth, according to the government, means the complete expulsion or extraction from the mother of a product of human conception, irrespective of the duration of the pregnancy, which after such expulsion or extraction breathes or doesn't have to breathe or shows any other evidence of life, such as beating of the heart, pulsation of the umbilical cord, or definitive movement of voluntary muscles, like contraction, like the afterbirth that contracts and the umbilical cord contracts after birth, whether or not the umbilical cord has been cut or the placenta is attached. So that definition of live birth is key to the fact later that we'll get in to the straw man. Okay, so let's back up the story again and go back to the part where you're in your mother's womb and the baby, right, is connected to the umbilical cord, is connected to the placenta, is all one thing, right? One, take it like one round ball, one being, one entity, not two, it's just one at this time. So as soon as you deliver a baby, what happens? Okay, as soon as the baby comes out, what do? They snip
Uh,
the cord.
Snip the cord. Yeah. Well, they make sure
Right,
it's breathing and all that kind of stuff.
right,
And
right,
then, everything's good to go. Then, then they separate the child from the mother.
right. We normally pick it up by its feet, hold it upside down, slap it on the butter back, and we hold it upside down so all the fluid in the lungs run out and that kind of stuff. We just try to get it breathing. Snip the cord, then we put it on the table right away, and then get its vital signs. So that's usually what happens. Now, that's one part. Okay, the baby goes one way. Now, the mom and dad have usually by then or afterwards they grant the baby a name, right? Okay, which means there was a trust that was formed because they were the creators of the trust. They granted the name, they had the power as the creator grantor, and they usually give the name of, let's say, John Henry Doe in upper and lowercase letters. Okay, so that goes with the baby. Yeah, you're looking at the right diagram. That goes with the baby, but it's telling you there's a trust going on. Okay. And why is there a trust? Because the baby and the child gets use of the name throughout schooling, right? But if he steals something from the store when he's 10 or 14, usually the parents are liable. So the parents are the trustee in the while the child is growing up. So legally, he's not liable, right, for his actions. Normally, the parents are until he becomes an age where the courts or they feel that he's an age of majority. Right. In today's world, I mean, if you shoot somebody when you're 16, you can be tried as an adult. These kinds of issues, but normally you're not considered an adult until you hit the age of 18. Now,
Right.
let's talk about
They
the
call that the
tissue.
legal. I noticed that they call that the legal age.
Yes, the legal age, which means at legal age is when now you can become liable for that name. You can become the trustee or volunteer to be the trustee. So let's talk about the tissue that comes down. Oh, okay. Well, I'll back up. So the baby, let's go to the birth certificate of the baby itself, which is number 4
Page
on
number
your
4.
page number 4 on the
Okay.
right hand side.
Bear with me one moment.
Now, I just picked Illinois as a sample of the birth certificates today because Illinois makes it very simple to see the difference between the certificate at the county level and the certificate at the state level. Okay. So normally, this is just normally at the county level that records when your birth, your true birth is recorded, or what they call registered at the county. They make up this certificate. Okay. And
Okay.
normally it's the name of the child is in upper and lowercase letters. It's got the names of the parents, but the key one at the bottom is that it has the name of the doctor. Can you scroll it down a little bit?
Certainly.
Right there at the bottom. It says Arthur J.
Right here.
Connell, MD.
Evidence of Union State citizenship. Private doctor
Right,
signatures from your
right.
notes here.
This is also called the long form. Now, the reason, one, you can tell it's a trust agreement again because they give you a bonded certificate for it. Okay, that's like a receipt. Let me give you an example of the grocery store. Again, I think we've gone this a couple times, but if you go to the grocery store and you buy the groceries in today's world, they give you 20 bags full of groceries. And then they give you the receipt. Well, that receipt is evidence that that property and all of those bags are yours, right?
Right?
Okay. It also proves that there's a trust going on and that you're the beneficiary because the beneficiary has use and possession of the assets. So you get to take all of that stuff home and use it. Now, if you happen to take 19 out of 20 bags home and you forgot one of the bags, okay, say one of the bags got left at the store, what is the evidence you could provide that that property behind the desk, the front desk, is your groceries?
Your receipt.
Your receipt. That's evidence that it's your property. That's correct. And this will come into play later. So they're giving you something with a government signature on there that documents what happened. And this is what I'm telling you. These are one of these documents you can bring into a court of law and actually prove you're not a U.S. citizen. If you have one of these, you're a Union State citizen. And if this is from Illinois, so legally you would be an Illinois Union State citizen or an Illinois American national. You can use either synonym, but what it is evidence that you could bring into a court of law or send to the IRS that you're not that IRS U.S. taxpayer.
Okay, real
Okay.
quick.
Yes.
You said Union State citizen, and what was the other one?
American national is a synonym for that same phrase.
Okay, now what about anybody who wants to say that the word citizen in a legal capacity gives you're kind of under a municipality, which puts you under a jurisdictional control? Is that just to alleviate people who are going to talk about
Okay,
the
so
word citizen?
technically it's true. You to be a citizen means you're a beneficiary. So every time what I want you to think of instead of the word citizen, think of the word beneficiary. That means you
A
belong,
beneficiary citizen?
yeah, that you're a beneficiary of some trust,
Okay.
okay, which gives you rights. A beneficiary has rights. Okay. Now, if you are a beneficiary of the public strawman trust, that's not a good thing. But if you're the beneficiary of this trust, that's a good thing. So it can be good or bad. It doesn't mean what some people say is it's all bad. Okay. If you want your Second Amendment rights, if you want your Fourth Amendment rights, you have to be the beneficiary citizen of the original 1789 Constitutional Trust. Okay? Only citizens / beneficiaries can claim those rights. You see why you have to, it should be proud to say you're a citizen of certain trust.
Okay.
Okay.
And you say so. Rule before we proceed with the birth certificates. One thing I want to. Me and you have talked privately numerous times, and we did today. I was talking with you about what I have, and what I have is what you're showing as the first one that shows with a doctor signature, with the signature from an MD, regardless of what people want to say doctor means, from an MD, and it's from a county level, and it doesn't, in my particular, there's going to be different verbiage is basically what I want people to realize, but the main thing that people need to pay attention to is the fact that one document has a signature from an MD and another does not. Would you
Correct.
say that's the major difference between the two, KL?
That's the major difference.
So regardless of what it says, because
Regardless if they're capitalized or non-capitalized, it really gets down to the issue: is there a doctor's name and signature on it or not?
right. Now, the one that I have does have one. So I told you, and I will update people. I'm going to contact my state of birth in Virginia and contact the Vital Records Department of Health and order a new copy and see if I get one without a doctor signature. I just wanted to correct that. So if people are looking at this and like, well, my birth certificate does not look like the birth certificate or either birth certificate that we're showing, there may be, this is the reason why, because different states are going to vary. If you're in Illinois, you probably will see similarities.
Right. In California, the first and middle name is in upper lower, but the last name is capitalized, which really looks confusing. But I want you to stop looking at whether it's capitalized or not and just look to see if there's a doctor signature. We'll tell you if you got the right one or not. Now, I also wanted to say something about that citizenship thing where some people are out there saying that's bad or you're a subject. If you go around stateless claiming you're not a citizen of anything, you have no rights, and you will not be recognized as having any rights in a court of law. What you'll be recognized is that you're a belligerent and enemy of the state, and they will treat you as such. So I'm trying to tell you that you better be claiming that you're a citizen of the one you want to be, the good one. You want to be a beneficiary, we the people of the posterity of that original Republic, United States of America, because that's where your rights will be secured. That's where your rights can be claimed and enforced. Okay, if you don't, if you say you're not a citizen of anything, they're gonna say you have no rights. Just put them in jail. You see the problem with that?
I see a big, huge problem with that.
Big, huge problem. Okay, that's the Lysander Spooner group doing that. I wasn't a party. I didn't sign that damn Constitution, so I'm not going to be held by it. Okay, fine. That means they're not going to recognize you have any rights whatsoever.
Yeah, you would
see
be
the problem with that?
Stateless in that sense.
That's right.
I don't know what happens to stateless people.
They're treated as enemies of the state.
Right. I mean, but I would imagine that you're not welcome to live on the land known as.
And you're guilty till proven innocent. In a court of law, in their court system, you'll be found guilty of everything because you have no rights to exert or secure or enforce.
Well, it's like that anyways now, unfortunately.
I know. Well, that puts you in the same group as U.S. citizens. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Which means, again, you're just guilty until proven innocent. So.
Sorry for the tangent.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. So that's what happens, again, to the baby with the upper lowercase name, the trust that's put in effect at that time. That's the true evidence of what you can bring into their system, what you can send to them. I'm telling you, you can send one of these certificates to the IRS if they send you a bill and say, I'm not the taxpayer, and here's proof. I got proof that you signed, a government person signed that says I'm not. These are the kind of things you can use stuff like this for. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, this is just calling the IRS and saying, I'm not under your authority. I'm going to give them evidence that I'm not under their jurisdiction. There's a difference. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now looking at this, when you have the diagram here on page 3, when the umbilical cord is cut, you now have 2 different entities. This is the thing that I find to be very bizarre. It makes sense, and this is where if somebody's watching this and you work or you know somebody that works for your Department of Health, your Bureau of Vitals Records and Health Statistics, please contact me because I would love to talk to those individuals. I'm trying to find out what they would know about this because they come from the same department. That's the one thing that me and KL talked about too.
Yep.
The big difference that you'll see between the two documents again is one will have a doctor's signature, an MD, and one will not. But they both come from the same Department of Health in the states. All states have a
Yes.
Department of Health, Bureau of Vital Records, and Health Statistics. So you're saying these two different entities that have each their own certificate.
Separate entity. They're separate jurisdictions. They're separate persons. One's real, one's artificial. Separate government, separate everything. And one is actually a derivative of the other, and I'll show you that in a little while. Okay.
So the zygote embryo baby DNA that the name is given by the parent
Right.
is based off of this first document that you have here with a Dr.
Yes.
MD signature. Okay, just want to
Yes.
clarify that because
And there's some people out there, I'll even give his name, Kurt Kallenbach, who goes back, makes the claim of the zygote. Okay. So he's doing it pre-separation, pre-cutting of the umbilical cord, which is because the straw man hasn't been invented yet, right? So that claim, which I also have in my documents, is the same claim. I go back in time to claim that property before it gets split in half. Okay, when
it
it
makes
was
sense.
one thing, when there wasn't a different entity that was created. So let's talk about that second entity. So the afterbirth comes down, and I'm telling you, because I've been there many times, the umbilical cord is beating because, in the placenta, usually beats because if you left it intact for several minutes, it will continue to pump blood and oxygen and whatever nutrients to the baby. Okay, so it is beating. And remember, I showed you their definition of what live birth means. So, under their statutory government, a live birth happens with the tissue that comes out after the baby, after the cut. Okay. Now, whose DNA is in that tissue? Yours, the baby's, right?
Right, it's like almost like a twin, but not a twin.
There you go. So
But that's a good
when the
way of
state
looking at
comes
this.
along and says, hey, the mom and dad abandoned the property, they didn't claim it, we're going to claim it because it's abandoned, like we found a treasure chest, right? So now we're going to say we're claiming it, but we got to give it a name. Now, it was born alive under their rules, but is presumed to die. We would agree to that, right?
Yeah, and this sounds very like very much Cestui Qui Vie Act of 1666 almost.
Yes, but really, this is a Cestui Que trust, not a Cestui Que V. But I'll tell you about that later.
Okay.
So if it dies, if it's presumed to die, just like on a headstone, just like a corpse, okay, they give it a name. They give it your name because it's got your DNA, but they do it in all caps. Okay. So did they really do something illegal? Are they really criminals, or were they really following the letter of the law with what they had? You see what I
I would
mean?
Yeah, I would say they were following the color of law with what they had, but
Yes.
yeah.
Right. Right. But under their system, this is how they do it.
Right,
Okay.
because the parent didn't go and claim this
Yes.
umbilical cord after birth DNA. I know some people do. I don't know what
Hmm.
happens in those degrees, but I'm sure that there's a fix for those kind of
Yes.
situations. Because even somebody that does a home birth,
Hmm.
because my sister was born at home,
Yes.
4.5 years after my birth, and but they had to still do everything that you would do in a hospital, being with the whole registering thing.
Yep.
Which again, you can look
And
at the legal
right,
definition of register and the etymology of that word.
you're handing over legal title.
Yeah.
They're dividing the title. You're keeping equitable title, and you're handing over legal title. So a trust is being formed with the afterbirth. it becomes a sole corporation because it dies, right? Now it's an artificial entity. Now they can make it into a corporation. Once they make it into a corporation, then they take that corporation and put it into a public trust, where in that public trust, it can receive welfare benefits, Social Security benefits. It can have driver's license. It can have a bank account. It can get car insurance. So what their viewpoint is we created this entity for your benefit. Okay, so you can do commerce because the real man, being that he's real and not artificial, cannot interact with all of these artificial entities, especially government. But we need basically we need a monopoly game piece to play the game of Monopoly. So the government creates one,
Right.
okay, out of the afterbirth, and that's what becomes the straw man. It's you, your dead person, your dead twin that was born alive but presumed to die.
And that's our Monopoly game piece so that we
That's
can
your Monopoly
participate
game
in this
piece.
game called Monopoly, because the live birth certificate signed by a doctor, MD, is not allowed to participate in play
Correct.
Monopoly.
Because he's a witness to the real live birth of the baby. That's why.
Just kind of getting a little clarification there,
Yes,
sir.
absolutely. Now, if you look at the second birth certificate, which is page 7,
Okay.
that's the state one. That's the actual birth certificate of the straw man. Okay, and that one in Illinois is put in all caps. You know, thank goodness. Again, the reason I use Illinois is because they make it real easy to see the difference between the two. Okay. Now, the other biggest difference is if you go down and look at the mother of this person and look at her birthplace. Now, if you look on, and you got to compare that to the other one where Josephine was the mother and she was born in Indiana. That's what it says. But on
Okay,
the
hold
state
on.
one, it
So
says
we
she was
have,
born in Indiana, comma, United States. You see the one on the lower right where it says Indiana, United States?
yeah. Yeah, I'm
Okay.
just, here's the Josephine from the first one, and the way that it's set up there with Michigan City, Indiana, it's all
Yep.
kind of written proper.
Yep.
Upper lowercase, and then you go back to this one and it's all uppercase, just Indiana, no city, no
Nope.
county,
Nope.
nothing beyond state.
Right. And definitely you can see where jurisdiction you're getting put into, or that name. It isn't a baby, right? This is a name. We're talking about the names to the baby or the names to the afterbirth. That's the property that is being put into trust. Is the name. Okay. It's never the baby, because if they were doing the baby, everybody would go to jail for slavery. So it has to be property, which is the name. You know, the name is a person, place, or thing. I don't know if you had grammar when you were a kid. Okay. A noun is a person, place, or thing. So a name is a thing, it's property. Now, the other thing I wanted to say, now, this, of course, is evidence of the straw man birth or death. You could actually even say it's proof that it died, but it's their receipt. You get use of the name, right? Here we go again. It's put into a trust. So you get to use the all capital letter name in commerce, because that's what the bank account name is. That's what the credit card account is. That's what the car insurance account is. It's in, you're using the benefit of the public, of the government. Okay. That's what locks you into this contract with them, is by taking the benefit, you're agreeing to that jurisdiction that is that trust has inside of it. Okay.
Right.
By using the benefit, by taking the benefit. Now, one other thing, go back to the county one, Chris. And on the upper left, you'll see a number 112-31.
Okay, hold on one second. Okay,
Okay, so
upper.
they actually, on the two name trust, they get legal title to both names. So don't think that you have total control over your upper lowercase name either, because you don't. You get use of it, use and possession. You get beneficial title, but they've got the legal title to both names. Okay, and this is the evidence of that. So look at the number. It says 112-31-301173.
Right here underneath of certificate of birth, the register number.
Yes. The
What does that say underneath
112-31
that?
or above it.
Connection number? It's right below the actual number, below the dotted line, really small.
I can't see.
I'm trying to blow it up. it looks like it says CONECUTIRE. I have no fucking clue.
I don't know either.
Their legal
But
jargon with their legalese
my
bullshit.
point is that entity or that trust is given like a VIN number to a car.
Okay.
A specific one-time number that is not to be used ever again.
A registration number.
Like a registration number. That's exactly what
Well,
it
it's
is.
what
Just
it
like
says.
a car. Right. And just like if you and I both had Toyota Camrys, we would have different VIN numbers because mine might be white, yours might be silver. Mine might be a Solera where yours might be a regular four-door Camry, right? It would have a different VIN number.
It's like your digital, or it's like a fingerprint for a car.
Yes.
Or a fingerprint for whatever you're registering.
Right. So now
identify it.
Right. Go to the state birth certificate, the certificate of live birth. And remember, live birth usually means talking about the afterbirth. It's 112-1931.
Which is a state file number.
Which is a state file. They added 2 more numbers to the original number. So you can see this is a derivative of the original number.
So they add the 112.
Well, they add the 19. 112-1931. They've added 2 numbers to the entire number. So it's a new entity.
Yeah, I wonder if that's a state code or what that number actually represents.
112 is the state code for Illinois.
Okay.
101 is California. 104 is Florida. Every state has a 3-digit prefix code.
Mine is 145.
There you go. And
or mine,
usually
the state of origin.
All right. Let me see if I prove this right. Usually the 1 dash and the 2 numbers after it is the year you were born.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
Yes. And then there's a number.
Another 6 for me. It's 6 digits.
Right.
So it's a state number 145-75. But
Which is the year you were born in 75.
Right. And I have what's equivalent to this one, the first birth certificate that we shared. This is what I'm referencing so people understand what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Not that I'm showing my certificate of live birth. Okay, and so yeah, the last 6 digits on here. I'm wondering if yeah, definitely when I order a copy, I'm really looking forward to seeing a difference, and I really appreciate my parents for having this copy for me.
Yes, you have to thank them.
Because I've heard this one is the first one that you shared is the one that's more difficult to get.
Yes.
Versus the one that's being on screen now is the one that most people receive.
And we take the good one, send that to the Secretary of State in the birth state, and they'll authenticate it. So then it puts the Secretary of State's signature on it. Then we send those 2 papers to the State Department in Washington to get it authenticated again. So now we'll have the original birth certificate is proof of your Union State citizenship with 3 government witnesses on it at the county, state, and federal level. Now, how powerful do you think that document is for a court of law?
You're talking about the first birth certificate.
Yes, the first one you have.
Compared to this, which has no signatures from anybody.
Right. This is why. Okay, this is why we take the good one and get that authenticated, get 2 more government signatures on it in case we ever need to bring it into a court of law as evidence.
So and I'll talk with you about this more privately, but I should take the one that I have and get it authenticated by 2 more state officials.
Yes, I'll show you how to do that.
Would like a what's the word I'm looking for? Somebody that gives you those stamps, a notary, would they be qualified?
Nope.
Okay.
Has to be Secretary of State. We're talking big people sign these things.
Okay. Yeah, we'll talk more about this.
The Secretary of State of your birth state, that's a big signature. And then do you think Anthony Blinken's signature on a document I bring into court would have some weight to it? You better believe it.
Okay.
Okay. So I think now I'm going to just go back to page 5. I just want to go over very slightly, very quickly, the structure of the trust.
I want to,
go ahead.
You have at the bottom of page 7. And again, if you want copies of these documents, we'll throw up on the screen really quick because I was trying to type up a banner. I want to make sure this thing. If you want copies of the document shared on today's video, email ricemediagroup@protonmail.com and put KL lesson 2 in the subject line. Okay, so the question I wanted to, or the thing I wanted to clarify was the second birth certificate at your notes is evidence of the state created birth of the straw man from the afterbirth, that there's no doctor's signature. Again, no doctor's signature.
Read the right-hand one too.
A receipt for all caps names property for the afterbirth that was abandoned until you came back to claim it. And you, I guess by us taking advantages of the benefits of the straw man is us in a way claiming it.
No, you have to on paper go back and claim it. So think of this as that you got a bag of groceries at the grocery store where you were born, and you have to on paper go back and say that's my property. And I'm sending you the birth certificate. I'm gonna send the government evidence of that's why I'm gonna claim my claim is good, is because I have evidence that it was my property.
Okay.
So you have to go back to claim it. That part of that, in a guy in Canada calls it the redemption process. That's basically what he's doing. He's going back and claiming it property that was abandoned to say that it's his. Okay.
And you can lawfully do that after X amount of time?
Of course. Yes.
Okay. I didn't know there would be like a statute of limitations of
No.
well, finders, keepers, losers, weepers.
All right.
It's ours now, fool.
No, see, legally, if they ever take it, they've stolen it. Okay. What their claim is, since no one claimed it, we're administering it. We're the custodian. Okay. We're just watching it for until somebody comes. We're just watching it.
Okay.
Okay. And that's how they get away with everything, is because you haven't made the claim. And again, only a beneficiary of a trust can make a claim on a trust. So you have to come forward as the beneficiary of this trust. That's why I'm making the claim, and that's why it's my property. Okay.
So here we are.
If you just write a letter and say I this or I that, well, who's I? Could be the trustee, could be the beneficiary. If you don't specifically put the office of the trust that you're acting for, they don't have to do it.
Right. And living man doesn't qualify for
living man does not qualify. You have to actually say the word beneficiary to have the right to claim the property. Okay.
Totally makes sense. Okay, so I have page 5 pulled up with the diagram of the creator grantor.
Right. This is just the basic trust structure, the basic 3 parties to a trust. The creator grantor is the one that forms the trust. He hires a trustee or employee for the benefit of the beneficiaries. Okay, that's the third party. So it's, for centuries it was called divided title, which meant that they're dividing the title to the asset into an equitable title and a legal title. Well, again, the equitable title is the use and possession of the thing, and the legal title is the controlling interest in the thing. Okay, like Chris, do you have any money on you? You got a dollar bill?
I had to unmute myself. Yes, I actually
Hold one up.
I don't like to admit having dirty fiat, but yeah, I think I have like $12.
Okay, so hold one of them up. All right. So whose money is it?
Oh, I know whose money this is. This money is the Federal Reserve's. It's one of their debt notes. It says Federal Reserve note.
Right
and
at the top.
It says that, right at the damn top. And then it says that this note is legal tender for all debt.
That's
public
private and public.
And private.
Yes. Now it's not your dollar.
You'll see how much I love the fact that you brought this up, KL, real quick, because the reason it is not your dollar is because, again, it is a Federal Reserve note.
That's right. They created it.
This is a silver certificate.
There you go.
This doesn't say Federal Reserve note on the top.
No, it doesn't, does it?
And
United States of America.
It was backed by silver.
Yes.
And it still is legal tender.
Right.
For all debts, public and private. But there's a difference between these two notes.
In today's Federal Reserve note, you are the user. You have use and possession of the thing, of the asset, but it's not legally yours. How do we know that? How can we prove that? Well, all you got to do is wake up and open your eyes and watch them change the purchasing power of the dollar.
Good old inflation everybody's dealing with right now.
That's right. They're changing the value of the dollar right in front of your face, and you
that
can't do anything about it.
That's what I call it.
Right, but you can't do anything about it because you don't control it. This is again just proof that they have legal title to it. You have the equitable title to it. Okay?
Okay.
The titles are split. That's what you always have to remember. One's liable, one of the parties is liable, the other one isn't. One has control of it, the other one is just has use and possession of it. Okay?
And most people are acting in a capacity of use and possession.
Yes, which is fine. Don't think you have to have control, because if you have the control, then you're liable, which means now you're liable for taxes or whatever. See, if they on a 1040 you volunteer to be the trustee, which means you volunteer to pay. Okay? When you're really the beneficiary, but what happens is they'll do the adjusted gross income on page 2, and then here comes the question: do you want to take the standard deduction or the itemized deduction? Okay? So it doesn't matter which deduction you take, but isn't either deduction a benefit to lower your taxes? Yes.
Yeah, it's supposed to be.
Yeah. So what did you
If you
just
play
do?
those reindeer games.
By accepting the benefit, you just locked yourself into that contract and that jurisdiction. Okay? By accepting the benefit. Now you're liable.
Now, I'll pause you
Okay?
because one of the things, if people do want to reach out to you and learn from you directly, is you teach people how to undo exactly what you just said.
Correct.
So
Yeah,
we
because
can go
this is all
ahead.
voluntary. This is all voluntary. And if it wasn't voluntary, they would all go to jail. So they have to make a remedy. There has to be a way out of everything. Otherwise, they'd all be in jail. So that's why there is a way to legally undo all of this stuff that you've gotten yourself into.
Okay.
Okay. So now go to the
Well,
next
you said,
page.
I
Now,
think you said you wanted, did we talk about 5? I know you wanted to pull it up, and then I was pausing to
yeah,
finish
we were talking
reading.
about it. That's the
Okay.
basic structure of a trust. So you got to understand that everything that the government or banks do is a trust. Your bank accounts are trust. The driver's license is a trust. Your car insurance policy is a trust. Your life insurance policy is a trust. Your IRA account is a trust. Your Roth IRA is a trust. The Social Security is a trust. Okay? Almost everything that you do in the commercial arena is a trust. So you got to learn what a trust is, what the language of a trust is, if you want to understand what they're doing to you so you can undo it. Okay, so
Okay.
my first thing with every student is to learn trust law and learn these trust diagrams. Okay, so page 6, I know I've said this, but I'm going to say it again. He who creates controls. So normally the creator of a trust is gets to appoint the trustee as the one who controls it, or he controls it. Okay, but he also, the creator, which I didn't forgot to mention, that's on the diagram, is the creator of the trust gets to decide what law forms the parties of the trust have to adhere to. So when you accept that benefit from the 1040 and you sign that, you agree that you're going to be under Roman civil law, statutory law, administrative law, whatever you want to call it, admiralty, maritime, but you've agreed to be under the law form that is under that trust. Okay. You are not
Under the
privy to,
corporation.
under the corporation. The only way you get the Constitution and the Bill of Rights is to claim you're the beneficiary of the 1789 Constitutional Trust. Okay. Because that's where those rights are. Okay. The rights and jurisdiction move in and out of whatever trust you're in or out of. Okay. So whatever trust you're claiming to, that's the jurisdiction you're in. When you sign contracts, you're agreeing to be in another jurisdiction. Okay. That's the problem. That's how they trick us. Okay.
Yeah.
So the elite government have control. They have ownership. Ownership is the trustee part. The straw man is the beneficiary. Owner, that's another word for beneficiaries. Owner, user, who has use and possession of the asset. The flesh and blood man is the surety for the straw man. Voluntary adhesion contracts, what we call operation of law. Trust agreements. That's why they use trust agreements, is because only you are signing the paper, not them. Okay, so how can it be a true contract? It can't be, because they, in other words, the bank never signs the bank account agreement, right? No, just you do.
It's been a
So,
minute since I've opened up a bank account, but yeah, I just
yeah, the
remember. I
bank
don't
never
remember.
signs.
Yeah, I don't remember the
Well,
representative signing.
right, only you do. So that's a unilateral contract of adhesion, which means a trust agreement, which means you can undo it because it's fraudulent, because it's not a true contract, because they never signed. You see how they open themselves up to undoing this jurisdiction that the agreement is under if you call them out on it. Okay?
Yeah.
All right.
This is where again, if somebody knows, or if you watching this work for the Department of Health, Bureau of Vital Records and Health Statistics in your state, please reach out to me at rice@protonmail.com. Rice Media Group.
Now, all right, I'm going to go back to page 3. I'm just going to say this, but this is more of on an advanced level once you've learned more about trust. I just kind of want to go over this because it's on the diagram itself. So we talked about the baby and the afterbirth. The title's splitting. You're one thing, then you get split into 2 entities, 2 birth certificates, 2 different persons, 2 different jurisdictions, 2 different names. Okay? You can bring those back together and get control of everything as if you were still the fetus by going to court and doing an adult name change. An adult name change, the judge will give you an order that now you have legal title and equitable title to the name, which means now you get to control the name and they don't. Okay. So one of the things we do is we go to court and we get our name changed from the all caps name to the upper and lower cap names. And in the public, now we have a judge's order that says we are in total control of the name and not the government. Now, do you think that piece of paper is important to bring into a court case?
I would think so. Yeah.
Yes. This is what I'm trying to tell you, though. This is what I do is I get stuff that they're going to go, oh my God, I can't argue with a judge's order. How can we not accept this? You see what I mean? They're gonna. Okay. It isn't, I'm a man, you got to believe me. That doesn't work. Okay.
Right.
All right. So go to page 8.
All right.
It's a
Page number
recap
8
of the 2 constitutions, the 2 trusts, just like the 2 persons, the baby and the afterbirth. Well, there's 2 constitutional trusts. One in 1789, and that's the top one in red, where the 13 states were the creator, grantor. Okay, they hired the federal government, a company, to run the federal government for the benefit of we the people and the posterity. Okay, we're beneficiaries of that original trust, right?
Right.
That's where your Bill of Rights are. That's where your claim has to come from, somewhere, somehow, that you're a claim of that. You're a citizen. I'm an American citizen. I'm a Union State citizen. That's where that claim can start and originate from. And that's what affords you those rights under the Bill of Rights that the courts will recognize.
Did you say
Okay.
page 8 or 9?
I got page 8.
8. That's what I thought you said. I got to pull it up.
It's 2 triangles. That's the one you're looking at.
Okay, I just want to make sure it was the right
page 8.
one.
Yes.
I'm trying to get everything in there we go.
Okay, and that, again, the creators, the 13 states, got to pick the law form that the parties of the trust have to adhere to. They picked common law and English American equity. Okay. So again, a lot of these people think there was only the common law. No, there wasn't. There was equity. There was English equity that now is called English American equity. And if you don't know what that is, then do some research, because that's a whole nother hour lecture. But there is more than common law that you have birthrights to, and equity is more powerful than the common law.
How would people, if people wanted to do their own research, which I always encourage people, how would they do the research on it? And you called it
the law of equity.
The law of equity. So just basically study up on the law of equity, which correlates with trusts as well.
Yes, and very biblical in origination also. It's what is fair and just.
So trust and equity. All right, people.
Yes.
You got some homework.
Okay. Yes. Now, quiz time. Chris, who elects the President of the United States in today's world?
In today's world, it's supposed to be the Electoral College.
Very good. And the Electoral College comes from the states.
Right. And then they're supposed to, their vote is supposed to be dependent on the popular vote in each state.
It's supposed to be, but doesn't have to be.
Doesn't have to be, but it's supposed to be. They're supposed to represent their constituents.
Right. A couple elections ago, who's the one from Harvard University, the lady? She got a vote. General Powell got 2 or 3 votes. You know, they weren't even on the ticket. So,
Right.
so the point is if you look at this trust, well, that makes perfect sense because the states are really in control. When the election for president is a 50 state election, it's not a people election. Okay, but of course, the Democrats want it to become a people vote, right? They want just the majority to do this. But according to the real constitutional republic, the states get to decide because they were the creators of this whole trust, not the people.
Right. Well, the
People get to
electoral
benefit from it.
college of each state,
Yes,
not the state itself, but yeah.
correct. Which makes it fair to the little states and the big states because, again, if you went to the people, if you got California, Illinois, and New York, it'd all be over. If you just got a couple, 3 or 4 states, you'd have as much as you would need by popular vote. So our founding fathers did it right. Okay, they knew what they were doing. So the blue triangle, the top one is the Constitution for the United States of America. The second one, what happened in 1871, was the Constitution of the United States. Okay, when the states were bankrupt, the Vatican comes in because because the states, didn't show up to make a quorum. We didn't have a federal government. So then
Right.
Lincoln
Well,
declares
you're talking about when the southern states walked out of Congress and we
yes,
had what they
right,
call legally send die.
yes,
And
March 27th, 1863.
okay.
So well, somebody had to do it. So Lincoln appoints the U.S. Army to do the duties of the federal government in absence of the state legislatures. Okay. So they really take over the duties until 1871. The Vatican goes to Delaware, creates a corporation called the United States of America Incorporated, and then they start forming franchises of that corporation: state of Florida, state of Virginia, state of Illinois, and then those subcorporations, right, create the straw man. So this is all the straw man is all a subcorporation of the state of Illinois, of the subcorporation of the United States of America Corporation. It's all one thing. Go ahead.
Okay, so you're really meticulous with sharing resources. The Vatican forming a corporation in Rhode Island,
Delaware.
Delaware. Do you have documentation or any proof to back that up?
Somewhere. I'll look for it for
I'm
you.
not meaning to call you out. You just, I mean, now that
Sure.
you're, this is, I mean, and
hmm
I have been
Oh, it should be listed
understanding
on. It should be listed on Dun and Bradstreet. It went bankrupt, but it still should be there.
formed by the Vatican, even from
hmm
the date back in what time period are we talking? 1871.
1871.
That would
I'll look
be
it
the
up.
same time period as the
The
Organic Act
Organic
of the
Act.
District of Columbia, the
That's
Act of
exactly the same
1871 that
time.
most people know.
Right.
Okay. Okay.
hmm
Just clarification. Thank you.
Yep, because that's where the corporate structure starts coming into play. But the problem is that at that time they only have power over the district. Okay,
Right.
they don't have power over the union states. So the game becomes to the elite: how do we get control of all the states? Okay, and the states being the Illinois state, the Florida state, the Virginia state, not the state of, but the true republic state is called the Illinois state or the Florida state. So they form these corporations. Okay, for example, the state of Illinois as a subcorporation of the original United States of America Incorporated. So they go to the states and say, hey, look, since you're broke, everybody's broke from the Civil War. I tell you what we'll do. We will pay all of your state employees for you. Okay. If you join this trust, a different law form. Okay. But we'll pay all of your employees for you. What do you think they did? They said, oh my God, of course. We're in for that. If you'll start paying our employees, absolutely. Okay. They took the benefit that put them into a different trust, which is the second constitutional trust, where the citizens become the trustees, the payees, the ones liable, and then the governments, they flip positions, they become the trustees. Okay. Because who do we pay every time we have a ticket or a violation or infraction or property tax? Who benefits now? The state or the federal government. See, they formed a new trust where they flipped the trustee and the beneficiary positions. And the reason you're a party to it is because you took the money, you took the benefit.
Okay. So And that's where, and I know this is kind of a little detour, but unincorporated areas like an unincorporated city or county or something like that doesn't qualify as being a part of the corporate state of,
Correct.
or
Correct.
the
Yes.
state of, yeah.
Correct.
Because state of North Carolina or state of Illinois would be the corporate, whereas
Correct.
North Carolina state or Illinois state would be
Is the
the
republic, is
de
the
jure.
your de jure union state. Correct.
Okay. Now,
And they're both here.
I
They're both
noticed flying,
operating at the same time. It's the matrix. They're both here.
hence
But
the
you
background.
only see the commercial side, the corporate side. Okay.
Yeah,
And
no,
that's
this
the
is
democracy. That's the
this is
one that has the funky law form where, the statutory law, administrative law, the Roman civil law, that's the problem.
the legal fiction matrix.
Right.
Now, real
So,
quick,
yeah, go ahead.
the pink triangle would represent, from our discussion, birth certificate 1,
Yep.
and the blue triangle would represent birth certificate 2, the one without a doctor MD signature.
So
Just want to
now
clarify as people are watching.
yes, because now do you understand the proof of the possession of the birth certificate is evidence that you're one of the posterity. They signed it. It's got their signature on it that you're a beneficiary. They gave you the receipt for the property. That's the evidence that you can bring into the court of law, into their system that they will recognize as the true status.
True
Okay,
dat.
that's called bingo.
BINGO, bingo.
Yes, you can yell it.
Yeah, I like that.
Right.
Let's go into court and yell
bingo.
bingo.
I mean, that's great. You're clarifying. That's good. You are absolutely correct. And this is all about proving your status to the right people so they'll leave you alone. Okay.
Sweet.
All right.
Thank you for allowing me to clarify and interrupt your awesome lesson.
Okay.
Where are we going next, my friend?
Well, do we have time to another 5 minutes, 10 minutes or so?
I got plenty of time.
Okay. So go to page 10.
We don't have to limit this unless you need to limit it. I want to be able to cover
the three triangles. Well, let's go to, I take it back. Let's go to 11 first. Okay. There's your organic act right there. Okay. In force on the first day of December in the year of our Lord, 1873, organization and government. Number 1, territorial area. Okay. So it's not part of the union, which again, we all know that, but that means a different jurisdiction than the union. Okay. Think of DC as actually like an island of Mexico. That's foreign to the 50 union states, correct?
It was always supposed to be, yes.
Yes, and right, but it still is. I'm telling you, it still is. You just have to recognize that it's foreign, that you are foreign to that territory. You do not want to be in the territory.
It's almost as if the federal government just laid a layer above the actual de jure nation.
Okay.
And spread the virus of what is the federal territory to be what we call continental United States, because everything now is broken into federal territories, kind of like your Hunger Game territories. Yeah,
almost. But my analogy is that there's an umbrella over your head, which is the territorial jurisdiction. Okay. But you have the right and can at any time step out from the underneath the umbrella onto the land, because you're on the land already. In other words, it isn't like something you got to get on the land. You're already
you don't need
on the
umbrella.
Right. You just don't need the umbrella. And once you step out from under the umbrella, you're back to where you belong, back to where you were born, your birthright. So you're automatically at the proper status. You don't have to do anything. You are there already. You just have to claim it. Okay.
Okay.
You're there. You're on the land. Okay.
Get on the land, people. Realize that you're on the land and get rid of that umbrella.
Yes.
And again, people can reach out to you directly. The information will be listed down below if you want to learn directly from KL. And again, if you want documents, make sure you're looking right here on the information on the screen, and I'll send you the documents. Don't email KL for the documents, as I stated earlier, please.
All right. So go to number 10 with the 3 triangles. And because it's in the paperwork, I'll quickly describe what that is. But this is more of what I do into helping you undo everything.
The 3 triangles
Okay.
are on number 9 for me, but I got it.
All right. So the top triangle is the birth certificate county trust. Okay. It's actually called a foreign situs trust. This is foreign to the United States government. It's where you get your upper and lowercase name registered at the county.
It's called what trust, though?
A foreign situs trust.
Situs.
Situs. See, it's right in there where it says private trust.
Okay.
And it's in the private. And bonds are taken out on that registration that are held by Seed and Company on Wall Street. That's where the bonds are for this trust, the original trust. But the upper and lowercase name is a beneficiary of this trust. And when people talk about the Cestui Qui Trust, Cestui Qui Vie Trust, getting a hold of all of these private accounts, those are it right there. Those are created because not only the beneficiary is you, the man, but the DTC, okay, because they're holding the bonds, they're also a beneficiary. So the government is making money off of those bonds, and they're putting it in private accounts because you haven't come back to claim it, right? It's abandoned property again. The legal title to the upper and lowercase name is just sitting there. They're using it, and it's an offset or it's collateral for the loaning and I would say the creation of the Federal Reserve note. It's the collateral. Okay.
And I totally get that. Now, the trading of our straw man, our contracts, our trust, does that happen in a public or private capacity?
Both. But the straw man is really in the public. Your real name is in the private. Those are trust and bonds on your true name. So there's both. It's going on both.
And you stand by Dun & Bradstreet as a website, as a
Yes,
source?
they should have the name of every corporation on earth.
Okay, I mean, I've looked this up and I've looked into it. I just want to clarify that this is something that you look as a legitimate resource.
United States of America Incorporated. That was the company or the corporation that was started, I believe, in 1871.
Okay.
All right. So that's the first triangle. Go ahead.
All right. Oh, no, I was just to say, are we done with the first triangle? Because I'll move down to the next
triangles. But the trustees are the Secretary of the Treasury, the Secretary of State, and the Attorney General. Now, I can't prove this one, but of course, the rumor has been rampant for many years that they undo their U.S. citizenship, just like I do, when they hold these offices. Their citizenship has changed back to what it should be, because it's again foreign. It's a foreign situs trust. They're really not working for the corporate United States. They're on the good side. So they usually have to sign papers. Okay, so let me give you an example. When you're an American citizen or a Union State citizen, you're not susceptible to any code or statute unless you've harmed somebody. So let's just take a hypothetical situation like Hillary Clinton when she was Secretary of State.
But you're talking about common law real quick, right?
No, I'm talking about when these 3 officers take office, take public office, their citizenship gets changed from U.S. to Union State. Okay,
to what you teach people to correct too.
To what I teach people to correct, right?
Okay.
So that makes them not liable for any statute or code violation. Okay. So when Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State and she openly admits on TV that she had a server in her own home with confidential and private information on it, she was breaking a statute and code, right? But was she liable? Can they ever bring her to court because her citizenship, if her citizenship was changed and she was a Union State citizen at the time, they have no jurisdiction on her.
Which makes sense. And I've kind of looked at that situation as they had some sort of diplomatic immunity, but that would apply to
it's not diplomatic. It's I'm just told you
it would just right. It would just apply back to what you said, being a union beneficiary citizen or an American national.
Yes, where those codes and statutes don't apply to me or her.
But now that she's not in that public office, would in a sense, would she still be able to remain in that de jure status as a Union State citizen per se or American
She could
national?
have. I don't know if she knows how to,
Okay,
but
because
yeah,
I'm
she
just
could have.
wondering because we don't see her being held liable at this time for any
Correct.
of those actions.
That's right.
I just wanted to. I
So
know this is
it's
a
a definite
careful area for
possibility.
the YouTube algorithm, but
It's
we're
a
going to go
definite
against the grain.
possibility, isn't it? Why she
Yeah.
skates on everything. Yes.
No, I paid attention to this because yeah, it
Yes.
should be as long as you're not causing any harm, which really
Right.
comes down to
She broke a
the
rule.
golden rule, treating
Right.
people how you want to be treated.
Yep.
And
Yep.
that's how things should be. And as long
Yes.
as you're not, because it shouldn't be a crime if there's not a victim.
That's the point.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
you
It's
can't
pretty
say, I want to use it to my advantage, but she can't for her. Now it's got to be universal.
right. Yeah.
Yes.
100%. Okay. So
So
this
the second,
second one
yeah,
is birth certificate
is
number
your
2,
public trust, your 1871
the afterbirth,
trust, the afterbirth, the
your
straw
dead
man.
twin.
Right. Now the straw man is the actual beneficiary, and you're hooked to him. So normally, if the straw man receives benefits, you do. But what they do, especially in a court case, okay, is they ask you, are you Chris Anderson? Now, what they're asking, are you the trustee of the Chris Anderson Public Trust? And if you say the word yes, you said you're the trustee, not the beneficiary.
And you
And you
gave
can't be
them
both.
jurisdiction.
You just gave them jurisdiction and you said you'd pay and you're liable.
Right. You just you admitted you're guilty and gave them
Yep.
jurisdiction all in one word
One
that
fell
consisted
swoop.
of 3 letters.
Yep.
It's
Just like the Miranda rights. Do you
like some
understand the
magic,
rights as I have
man.
told them to you? If you say the word yes, what did you do? You put the noose around your neck. You have to say,
Right.
no, I don't understand. But
Right. No,
anyways,
I don't. I don't
right.
comprehend the words that
That's
are
right.
coming out of your mouth. I am in a
Right.
foreign land, my friend.
Doesn't Jackie Chan say that in one of his movies, I think?
He might.
I
If he
don't
does, I'm going to have to
understand
sample it.
the words coming out of your mouth is what he says to Chris Rock or Chris Tucker.
I'm going to have to sample that. I want to go find it. Yeah. Yeah, I'll have to
They're
go
in a
back and
car.
watch those movies.
You know, at the beginning of the movie, I think it's the second one, they're in a car and he says, I can't understand the words coming out of your mouth.
Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker. So what I
Tucker
need people to
in
do is yeah, the name of it's on the tip of my tongue, but I'm sure somebody
yes.
watching this might know what, because I'm sure there's several different parts of that movie, like 3 or 4.
Right.
So if you know what specifically we're talking about and you can pinpoint me to that location, I'm going to sample that because I got some stuff I'm going to be sampling, and yeah, that
Okay.
would be great. All right. So number
So
2 here, the afterbirth dead twin. This is
yes,
the
the trust
corporate
for them
de
that has a
facto government.
right de facto government with a different law form that if you agree to take a benefit, if you agree and you say you're a US citizen when you check that box for voter registration, if you check that box for I'm a US citizen when you do a passport, if you check that US citizen box when you do a driver's license, what are you doing? You're saying I'm a party to that trust. Thus, I'm under that law form. Okay?
You're consenting
You're
and
consenting and
giving permission, waiving
you're
your rights.
waiving your unalienable rights.
You're giving it
They're
all up.
not right. They're not being taken. No one's stolen from you. You voluntarily waived them with your
Mm.
consent. Everything they do works on waiver and consent.
Consent of the governed.
That's right. That how many times you even heard Obama say that?
I mean, yeah. What's one
Yes.
thing that my good friend Eric Sullivan said, and when he started his podcast that he's not consistent with, he was calling it such, consent of the
It is.
governed, and it was with a Tom P. Man, it was a good
Right.
show. But
And that's why I'm telling you, I don't consent to be under your corporate government. I consent to be under the republic, and it works. But you have to put it in writing and you have to put it in the public as for legal due process so everyone can see and then anyone can make a claim or disclaim your claim. Okay? Because
okay,
that's their system. That's how they work. Okay?
so going down to triangle number
Number 3.
3.
So this is how I fix everything. I first release myself of the obligation to the straw man and then okay, what do I do with all of the property that's in the all caps name? Like, what do I do with the bag of groceries that's still at the store? I have to go claim it as my property. But I don't really want to be liable like I was before in the public trust, right? Public straw man trust, I'm the liable trustee. So I'm going to convey it. Once I claim it as my property, I'm going to convey it into a private trust where I'm only the beneficiary, and I appoint the federal government as the trustee, just like back in 1789, the way it used to be. So I'm going to switch the trust parties again, the beneficiary and trustee, where I become the beneficiary of the private trust, which is now the new monopoly game piece. Okay, the trust, not me, but the name is now the private trust, the new monopoly game piece, and the federal government becomes the liable parties.
Okay.
So all I got to do is stay out of trouble, and everything works. Go ahead.
So to clarify, what you're talking about with this third diagram, the third triangle, is when you're with birth certificate number 2, with the legal straw man, the legal fiction straw man, they create
Yes.
at that time a monopoly game piece, so that you can participate in this trickery, this game of
Yes.
monopoly that we deal with in reality, what we call
Yes.
reality.
Yes.
And what you're doing with this third diagram, what you teach people is how to get rid of what the government or what was created at your birth by whomever, the game piece, the monopoly
Yep.
game piece, and then you stay in the game by creating your own monopoly game piece.
That's it. But it's a private trust now instead of a corporation where I'm the beneficiary and the government is the liable trustee. And I keep playing the game, which means I can keep making money. I can have bank accounts. I can have car insurance. I can do everything I used to do,
Right.
just like before.
You've even mentioned previously that you've given, you've got a driver's license and things to that effect in
Yep.
your in this monopoly game piece entity
Right.
that
In the
you
name of that.
created.
And my automobiles are registered in the name of the private business trust.
Okay. And again,
Okay.
that's something that you teach on a private basis that's
Yes.
not going to be shared in any public capacity. This is just kind of
Right.
giving people foundational information
Right.
and to spark some interest in some individuals. And then I think this information is so concise and clarifies so many things that if this is an interest that really if this is a subject that interests you, you definitely need to be sharing these videos, these lessons.
Right. So if a cop pulls me over, is that your car? No, that belongs to a private trust. Okay. And here's the registration to prove it. Okay. So usually that alone, again, it's like if you're a driver for Walmart, do they give Walmart the ticket or they try to give you, the driver, the ticket? Well, of course, they try to give it to you, right? Even
Hmm.
though it's Walmart's truck. But now normal people will have the name of their car registered in their name. So now you're the liable party again. So he writes the ticket out to you. But if I have a private business trust as the registered owner, absolutely for sure parking tickets go away, let alone regular possible tickets usually go away.
Right. Again, as long
Okay.
as you're not doing
Right.
anything to directly cause
Harmful.
harm to another
Right.
individual, then you shouldn't have any sort of
Correct.
lawful or legal
Legal
repercussions.
problem. That's right.
And I distinguish between the two.
Right. So I don't have to fight. I don't have to shake my fist. I don't have to only roll the window down to a half an inch. I don't have to do anything. All I got to do is give them the registration in the name of the private business trust. The license that is on record in the computer is that's not mine either. That belongs to a business. That's a business. That's not mine again. So when they run and they swipe that card, whoosh, they come back 2 minutes later and say, "Here you go." Doesn't that sound like a more realistic, honorable way to deal with the public than arguing?
100% keyword honorable. And I'm glad that you
Yes.
said that, because you don't want to do this in a way
No.
that is looked at as combative in any means. You don't need to talk down or yell at some
Nope.
officer of the law, or a
Nope.
police officer. I shouldn't say officer of the law, but a
No, I'm
police
not trying to
officer.
ruin his day. I'm trying to be friendly and
Right.
professional and courteous.
Stay in honor.
Yep.
Come correct. Know what you know.
And it works.
Stick with it. Yeah,
Hmm.
I get it.
Yeah.
There's so many different teachings out there. And I don't feel as if they're backing any of it up. I'm not saying 100% of everybody, but again, this is why I really appreciate what you do and appreciate your time.
Right. And I'm trying to show you you can get the evidence from them. for what you need. They're more than happy to give it to you if you know how to ask for it and how to then give it back to them and prove it to them that who you really are,
Okay.
because the evidence is there. But to me, I've always believed in the fact you got to have the physical evidence. It isn't, you can still, if you're really smart, I can still get out of a ticket with just talking. But boy, I sure like submitting stuff ahead of time if I ever had to go to court, so then I can have it dismissed before it even starts. You see what
Yeah,
I
but
mean?
on the same note, you've been at this for quite some time. So for
Yes.
you to be able to say that you can deal with this verbally makes sense. But as
Hmm.
somebody like myself has only been really even just into this for a few years, I don't feel comfortable 100% quite yet to be able to handle myself 100%
Correct.
verbally.
Right.
And I think that's where
So
a lot of people mess up.
yes. And so I try to tell them, well, you got to make a decision right away. You're going to fight it as a U.S. citizen or a Union State citizen. If you're going to do the Union State thing, you better keep it down to just, 5 or 6 things you need to memorize, and that's it, and see if that works.
Right.
Because, they're going to try to trick you. Even if you say everything right, they're still going to try to ask you trick questions. Like I had a student who was doing fine. She was an elderly lady. And then they said, well, I'm thinking about dropping this, but just for my own benefit, Miss Jackson, do you have a
Sorry,
driver's
Miss
license?
Jackson.
Yeah, he said, do you have a driver's license? And of course she said yes, what she should have said no. It's not mine. Oh, can I see it? And then of course she whips it out. Oh, and then she goes, bang, guilty.
Right. And just hand it over jurisdiction again.
That's right. So this is what they do. It's hard to know not to answer questions, but they're trained. They're trained very well.
One of the things that I find that most people are having problems with and getting some sort of legal problems and situations that sometimes come out successful and sometimes don't is the whole driving without a license
Hmm.
and not having proper registrations and tags, which is
Yep.
what the legal system requires if you're going
Yep.
to whether you're traveling or driving on a state road,
Right.
federal road, they're going to require that the vehicle be
Yes.
registered and that you have a license. And so,
Yes.
if you want to avoid problems, what was shown in diagram number 3 that KL teaches would take away that element. And that's
Yes.
again, if you think about this logically, what other problems are you having that you have to deal with police officers, courts, judges, lawyers? What other situation is it that most people are aside from maybe, which is
It's getting
another
pulled
big one
over.
is yeah,
Hmm.
but the only other one that I could think of besides the driving situation would be maybe possibly child protective services.
Hmm.
Those would be the 2 main ones, but driving would be if you don't have
Yes.
kids, driving is the one, and people who, because like myself, I have if and I have people have looked up my criminal record. I don't have any felonies, but I've got pages of driving with a revoked license or driving
Hmm.
on a suspended license, operating whatever bullshit they wanted to give me, but
Right.
it looks bad on paper.
Yes.
Uh, and if I was to try to use the traveling versus driving argument, it would fail utterly, and I would be
Correct. And I
immediately
can tell
locked
you
up
why.
because of my record.
Because yes, there's a 1904 Supreme Court case that says you can, but then in 1907 and 1911 it says you can't. All U.S. citizens, and he's gonna presume you're a U.S. citizen till proven otherwise, have to have a license.
Right. So if you follow the method like you're saying and create your own Monopoly game piece
Hmm.
per what
Which
you
means
teach beyond this
right,
conversation and the last one and the future ones,
right,
because it's going to be in a private, you'll teach people how to get that Monopoly
right.
piece and be able to operate. You can have a driver's license. You
Yes,
can
in the
have
name of the
your vehicle
business,
registered.
and it won't harm you. Okay, that's
Right.
the point. It won't harm you. You will protect you. And again, because you're not fighting with the cop, when he swipes the card and he's told to let you go, there's no problem. There's no issue. You see?
If you're in a state, and this is one last thing, if you're in a state that doesn't require you to have a driver's license to register your vehicle, would
South
you
Dakota,
well, they may do it in North Carolina as well. Would you say that it's more beneficial just to use a passport, um,
card, passport card, not the book.
versus actually getting a driver's license? Would you say the driver's license should only be needed if you needed to? Because I know you
You
travel.
absolutely have to have it to rent a car.
Right.
I travel and rent cars, so again, that's why I have a driver's license. I use one, right? Because
But if you're not in that position,
you're not in that
if
position, I
and they don't
suggest
require a driver's license, then
a
don't get it.
passport card, according to TSA, can be used to get through the airports also, in
Mhm.
lieu of a driver's license.
Yeah, you can go to Mexico and Canada. You should be able to drive.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I just wanted that was again. That's just I think as much clarification as we can give on simple foundational things, I
Hmm.
think people can avoid a lot of trouble and heartache and stress.
Right. Just register everything in the trust, and there isn't going to be a problem.
Okay,
Then
cool.
you
Well,
get
it's
to go along and play Monopoly all day long without any hassle.
right, and it is a fun game if you control
Yes,
your game piece.
absolutely. When you don't have to pay taxes and you get 100% of your check, boy, let me tell you, that's a whole different game.
Was there anything else that you wanted to cover in lesson number 2? Everything that we
No,
need to
that's
know
it
or
for.
wanted to know about the
I
birth
think we're good.
certificate? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, well, I want to remind people that we are going to do further lessons because in the past, this is as far as we had gotten. Um, and I do encourage people, I'll put a playlist for all the videos that I've done with KL so you could check out the older conversations when I didn't know as much as I know today. And that's again
Hmm.
why I wanted to redo this, clarify, because the more I started looking at different teachers and interviewing people, the more confused I was getting. And
Yes, which is expected
right, and you kind of
because
cleared up a lot of that confusion for me. I imagine like I was in a smoky room before. Now I can see clearly now.
now. And again, I'm just trying to help. Even if you said to me, I do David Straight or Anna stuff, I could still explain their work to you because I've studied their work. So, and yes, it is different. That's what makes it more confusing. Is I am different than David. I am different than Anna, and different in a lot of aspects. So that's, I think, what makes it confusing. Go ahead.
And I can also add that even individuals like Anna von Reitz and American States Assembly have even hired you for consultation purposes for writing up
Yes.
documentation, correct?
Yeah. I've written what I call a legal amicus brief. When they get in trouble, which a couple do, unfortunately, they get pushed right into the wrong courts. So I have a 32-page brief that they can use to explain their citizenship status and to try to get the what we call the case abated. And then when we mean abatement, that means, Your Honor, the procedure and is different, and you don't have jurisdiction, so just dismiss it before it starts. So
Okay.
yes, I have been consulted for legal help on those kinds of
I
issues.
just want, I mean, I just want to clarify again, people who people may be learning from and think might be the most knowledgeable teacher in the legal fiction status correction space, but a lot of these individuals have came to you wanting to get clarification and utilize your work. So I like to highlight that just to kind of
Yes.
at the same time kind of show a little bit more
Yeah.
about how people in the space beyond myself really respect what you do.
Well, thank you. I honestly think that their
I'm
impression
kissing
is
your
that I
ass
have,
as much as I can right now.
well, they look at it as I have a higher batting percentage. Okay.
You
I
know
have better
well
success than they do.
I guess the best way of me saying and summarizing it is you know
Yes.
what you're saying a lot better than most and you can
Yes.
prove it.
Yes. And I actually can help people. Yes.
Yeah, you can prove it. You actually you actually can help people. I love
Yes.
that. That should be your motto. I actually can help you. All
Yeah.
right, my friend. Okay, well, again, we're going to be doing more lessons. If people want to learn from you privately, your email will be down below,
Yes.
mrbeneficiary@gmail.com. If you want documents, make sure you email me for documents for lesson 1 and or lesson number 2. Email me at ricemediagroup@protonmail.com. And again, we'll be doing more lessons. You have anything you want to add to the conversation before we
Just
wrap
want
up,
to
my friend?
say, just want to say thanks for having me on again. It's always a joy and a pleasure, and I enjoy our discussions. And I think hopefully it helps people.
Well, I can tell you 100% one, it helps me a lot. So I hope, and from the feedback from redoing the lessons and even the previous conversations, I think it helps a lot of other people as well. So again, I really appreciate even you enjoying the conversations means a great deal. Because I know I just feel like if we weren't talking about this thing that brought us together, I'm not sure that our paths would have ever crossed. But
I
being
know
that they
it's,
have, I do consider you
but
a friend, and I appreciate you, man.
same here. And I'm sure you feel the same as I do, that everything that has happened in your life, good or bad, both, has led you to where you're at now. It's also led me to where I'm at now, that I have the ability to help. I have the knowledge to help. And it just everything that I've gone through has put me in this place to do what I'm doing.
Well, thank you again, my friend. Bear with me real quick. Just going to do the real quick wrap up. Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching this on my new YouTube channel, Rice Against the Grain. If you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Also, be sure you're following me on Rumble and Odyssey. I'll have links down below for those as well. I'll be posting up exclusive content and doing exclusive live streams over on Rumble and Odyssey. I will leave you with this. I encourage you to be a blessing to others. Treat people how you want to be treated. Be the glitch you want to see in the legal fiction matrix. Be the change you want to see in the world. Practice change. And until next time, until next lesson, much love.
Goodbye. Be the change.